On today's Workplace series, we're talking about influence. The 10 key things that you can do to elevate how you influence. You know, people often say to me, but yeah, Michelle, influence, you've either got it or you don't. Not true. Influence is a skill. And like any skill, that means there are things that you can do to improve, to elevate how you influence. I'm going to share 10 key things for you to think about. Firstly, understand yourself. Influence starts from within. It's almost impossible to influence others if you don't understand yourself. What motivates you? What drives you? What's your mindset? And how are you applying those to work, relationships? What are the assumptions that underpin your decision-making processes? How are you impacted by the people around you? How is that influencing how you show up? You need to understand yourself so that you've got the ability to then reflect on how am I impacting the people around me? Next, and this is like the flip side, understand others. Take the time to understand the people around you. What not just extrinsically motivates them, but what intrinsically motivates them. What are their bugbears? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their agendas? The more insight you have into the people that you work with, the people that you need to influence, the better you're able to position ideas, arguments, engage in conversation and build relationships with them. Next, you want to be able to understand the system in which you are working. All organizations are systems. And as a system, that means there can be hidden forces. There are dependencies. There are connections. There are relationships, all of which play out in the background all the time that influence what gets done, what doesn't get done, how things unfold. When you understand the system, you're better able to navigate that organizational landscape so that you can find your way through the back door to get things done. Next, maintain your integrity. Your integrity is the cornerstone of your reputation, of how people think about you, feel about you, talk about you. You know, I've seen people who over time just sort of sidestep their integrity, make those little steps of ethical mischoice, and then eventually their integrity is so eroded that it's almost impossible to come back from. You need to guard it carefully and push beyond self-interest. You want to seek the better game in discussions and advocate positions that aren't just self-serving, but serve the greater good. Next, number 5, get busy on purpose. Influential people, they get stuff done. So plan, know what it is that you need to achieve. Be deliberate about how you use your time. You want to make good decisions. So you do need to be deliberate in your decision making, but you also want to be decisive. And you want to be determined in the face of setbacks, because if you're seeking to influence, there are always going to be setbacks. Times when things don't go to plan, when you don't secure the outcomes that you're looking for, but you don't give up. Number 6, play the long-term game. It can feel easy to take that shortcut because you want to achieve what it is you're seeking to achieve. But if by taking that shortcut, it means you're stepping on someone or over someone in a way that damages the relationship, not good. You need to seek long-term constructive relationships which are mutually beneficial. Those one-sided relationships where it's all about you, well, that person who's on the other side, they're eventually going to walk away. Number 7, design your network. And by network, I mean relationships. You need to know who's in your network, who's not in your network that you need to have in your network. What's the depth, the breadth of those relationships? Are they healthy? Are they immature in some way? Do you need to put more effort into developing those constructive relationships? And then once you've done that, what's the effort that you're putting in place to nurture those relationships? Next, lead consciously. No matter where you sit in the organizational hierarchy, you have the ability to lead. And your actions, they're noticed. So if there's an inconsistency between what you're saying and what you're doing, that gap, people are going to notice it. They're going to notice it, and then they're going to question, who are you? What do you really stand for? So if you're not leading consciously, it's going to impact your reputation and integrity, which, if you remember, I talked about before as being very important. Number 9, craft your communication. You know, we can often think that the key is, I need to talk a lot. No, it's not about how much you talk. It's about the value of the words. It's the intent behind those words. You want to ground your messages in reality and what people need to know. You can be simple. You want to be empathetic and authentic and transparent in your communications. But you also want to be generous. And by that I mean share ideas, share learnings, share knowledge, because that you can use as a foundation to help build your platform for influence. Number 10, negotiate wisely. You know, often people don't realize that they negotiate all the time. What's even worse is sometimes a person can be in a negotiation and not realize that they're actually in a negotiation. So to strive to achieve good outcomes, 1, recognize before you walked into the room that it is a negotiation. So that means you've planned for it, you've thought about it, you've worked out what the outcome is and where it could go, the potential pathways, potential options. And then when you've gone into that negotiation, you're going in with good intent. You're striving to walk out of that, one, with an agreement, but an agreement where everyone is leaving with their dignity intact. That also means you want to build relationships early. You also need to be ready for the negotiation process. So that planning I mentioned before is important, but it's also the internal planning that you need to do, because negotiations can be tricky. They can stretch the mind, and you want to have the resolve to see it through. So they're my top 10. The top 10 levers that you can pull, the skills that you can build if you want to influence better. Of course, as I said, this is a skill. And if you want to learn more about it, reach out, because this is something that I can help you with. Have a great week. I'll see you next week.